हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, मैं डॉक्टर बोनाटा आप लोगों का बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूँ इस यूट्यूब वीडियो में। आपके री नीट को ध्यान में रखते हुए अभी वीडियो डिज़ाइन करे जा रहे हैं। तो आज हम पढ़ेंगे अबाउट द मॉर्फोलॉजी ऑफ फ्लावरिंग प्लांट्स। इसमें से 4-5 क्वेश्चन तक आए हैं, बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स है इसमें। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं।
तो बच्चों, welcome to today's crucial explainer and revision session. I am your host, and today we are literally going to crack the highest yield concepts of morphology of flowering plants for your upcoming exams. ये एक ऐसा चैप्टर है जहाँ टेक्निकल टर्म्स सुनकर मैक्सिमम स्टूडेंट्स घबरा जाते हैं. But trust me, by the end of this masterclass, every single concept will be absolutely crystal clear in your mind. तो चलो, let's dive right into this.
अच्छा, ये हमारा एजेंडा है आज के लिए. We'll start with number 1, roots, stems and leaves. Then we'll move to number 2, the flower and inflorescence. After that, number 3, fruits and seeds. And finally, number 4, major plant families. Let me tell you, if you master these 4 sections with me today, you're pretty much guaranteed to score full marks on this chapter. So, बिना time waste किए, let's begin.
All right, starting with section 1, roots, stems, and leaves, the vegetative base. ये plant के बिल्कुल basic parts हैं, but you'd be surprised how tricky the exam questions can get here. ध्यान से देखो इसको. On the left, we have the primary taproot system. Notice करो how it has one main, really prominent root that goes deep down. ये develop होती है directly from the elongation of the radicle, and it's mostly seen in dicotyledonous plants, जैसे कि mustard. Now shift your focus to the right side, the fibrous root system. यहाँ story थोड़ी अलग है. The primary root is actually very short-lived, और base of the stem से बहुत सारी roots का एक झुंड और a tuft निकल आता है. This is super typical of monocots, like your everyday wheat plant. Now what's really fascinating about these root modifications is how roots literally change their job profile. ये direct, NEET और board exams में आता है बेटा. Root modifications are a huge favorite for examiners. Always remember, taproot modifications, like what you eat in a carrot or radish, always develop from the primary root, just to store food. But adventitious roots, ये तो radical को छोड़कर plant के किसी भी part से निकल सकती हैं. For example, think of the massive prop roots of a banyan tree that hang down to give it support. Always remember this fundamental distinction. Moving up to the leaves now. ये concept clear करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. Venation is just the pattern of veins and veinlets inside the leaf lamina. अगर veinlets एक complex सा network या जाल बनाती है, तो उसको हम reticulate venation बोलते हैं, which is a classic undeniable feature of dicots. और अगर veins एक दूसरे के बिल्कुल parallel run करते हैं, without forming any network, that's parallel venation, typical of monocots like grass and banana. इसका एक सीधा सा हिसाब है. Network means dicot, parallel means monocot. Simple as that. Let's see how this venation builds into actual leaf types, simple versus compound leaves. Please don't get confused here. A leaf is simple if its lamina is completely intact, or even if it has some cuts or incisions, they don't go all the way deep. But a leaf is only called compound if those incisions go all the way deep and actually touch the midrib, creating completely distinct, separate leaflets. जैसे नीम का पत्ता देखा है आपने? That is a classic pinnately compound leaf.
Okay, now we move to section 2, the flower and inflorescence. अब हम आते हैं reproductive parts पर, where the terminology gets a little bit trickier, so pay close attention. First things first, let's get the technical definition totally locked in. Simply put, inflorescence is just how the flowers are grouped and arranged on the stem, which we call the floral axis. Actually, fun fact, a flower is literally just a modified shoot. Depending on exactly how this shoot grows, inflorescence is mainly divided into 2 basic types.
ये comparison exam के लिए super important है बच्चों. Racemose और cymose. इसका सीधा मतलब क्या है? Well, racemose keeps growing endlessly. Why? Because the main axis doesn't stop and flowers bloom laterally in an acropetal succession, meaning the fresh, younger flowers are always up at the growing tip. On the flip side, cymose hits a dead end with a flower right at the tip. Because of this, its growth is strictly limited, and flowers grow in a basipetal order, meaning the oldest flower is sitting right at the top.
And this brings us to estivation inside the flower. Estivation is simply the arrangement of sepals or petals in a floral bud. You need to memorize this exact pattern because identifying valvate versus twisted is a classic one-mark question that comes up every single year. Valvate means petals just touch each other's margins without any overlapping. Twisted means they overlap in a very regular one-direction pattern. Imbricate is overlapping but in a totally irregular way. And vexillary, that's your typical pea flower with a massive standard petal overlapping the lateral wings and the anterior keel.
So the most crucial part inside the flower is obviously the ovary. Ovules kahan placed hai? Ovary ke andar. That exact positioning is what we call placentation. Think of it exactly like seating arrangements in your classroom. It can be marginal, like peas along a ventral suture, axial, attached right to a central axis, parietal on the inner walls, free central or basal. Lock these 5 terms in your memory right now.
Moving right along. Section 3 is fruits and seeds, post-fertilization. Basically, fertilization ke baad kya hota hai? Let's revise the delicious outcome of all that floral biology. Now, here is a really fun trivia question that examiners absolutely love to ask. Socho thoda. Why do botanists look at a perfectly tasty apple and call it a false fruit? Like, what is fake about it?
Answer mil gaya? The golden rule in botany is that a true fruit must develop strictly from a mature, ripened ovary. That's it. An apple is called false because its fleshy, edible part, the sweet part you actually eat, is actually the thalamus that has grown and swelled up along with the ovary. The real fruit in an apple is technically just that tough core right in the center that you throw away. Mind-blowing, right?
Now, what if fertilization just doesn't happen at all? Virgin fruits, or parthenocarpic fruits, are another major exam favorite because they skip the fertilization process entirely. And logic dictates because there is no fertilization, there are no seeds. A naturally occurring example is the banana. Botanists can even induce this artificially nowadays to give us those amazing seedless watermelons we get in the summer. I want you to take a screenshot or write this classification down right now. Categorizing fleshy fruits into drupe, berry, or pome will definitely fetch you solid marks. Just remember, a drupe develops from a monocarpillary superior ovary and has a really hard, stony endocarp. Think of the hard pit inside a mango. A berry has a syncarpous ovary, a fully fleshy mesocarp, and usually tons of seeds, like a tomato. And a pome? We just covered that. It's a false fruit with a fleshy thalamus.
All right, we have arrived at our final and most important section, Section 4, Major Plant Families. Students usually dread learning these floral features, but honestly, seeing them compared side by side like this makes it a total piece of cake.
Agar exam mein 5 mark difference question aaye na, just reproduce this table exactly as it is. Notice the beautiful pattern here. Fabaceae and Solanaceae are dicots, so naturally, what do they have? Taproots. Liliaceae is a monocot, so it automatically has fibrous roots. And look at the carpels. It shows a perfect mathematical progression from mono to tricarpellary across the columns. 1, 2, 3. Fabaceae has marginal placentation, while both Solanaceae and Liliaceae have axial placentation. सीधा अपने दिमाग में fit कर लो इस pattern को.
So as we wrap up today's explainer, I'm going to leave you with this final test of your knowledge. Is a sweet potato a taproot or an adventitious root modification? Think carefully about where it actually grows from. Keep revising these examples, bachchon. Practice drawing those aestivation diagrams we talked about, and I promise you, you will absolutely ace your biology exams. Milte hain next revision class mein. Until then, keep studying hard and stay completely focused. You've got this.